Hey, what up, guys? It's me again, and welcome to the This Is My Moment podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Mitchell. And here at This Is My Moment, we love having a good time. We love to see you smile, and we love meeting new people. Oh, yeah, it's season 2, baby. Let's go get it.
There ain't no stopping it, this is my moment. Join the movement, we bringing people together, bringing positivity, making changes for the better. Cause it's all about
Today, I have someone on the camera with me that I can't wait to talk to because I can relate to this. You saw that? I said relate. Introduce yourself to the family.
Hello, Patrick and everybody. So wonderful to be here with you today. I am Mary K. Savarese. I come with that middle initial K because there are many Mary Savareses on the internet, from young to old to deceased. So I am a traditionally published, I'm very proud of that, award-winning, best-selling author. I am known for my quirky titles. My debut novel is titled Tiger's Love, Bubble Bath, and Obsession Perfume. Who knew? And my latest trilogy, the first is out, The Girl in the Toile Wallpaper, and the second book in the trilogy will be coming out soon, the Star Writers Club.
So we're gonna talk about all that stuff because the girl in the toilet paper, and I don't even know what that is. So I had to do a lot of looking up. So, but we're gonna get into that later. I want to talk to you. When I first saw you, right, I was like, man, let me research her so that way I can know what I'm talking about. It says, put yay in your everyday. And I was like, wait a minute, yay in my what is that?
Well, put more yay in every day. What that basically means is never, ever give up on yourself.
Mm,
Um, Many of us are going through the first act. Some of us are on our second and third act.
right.
And we experience many things in our lives. And Patrick, as I experienced at a point in my life when I became an empty nester, I was dealing with something that was ashamed of. The fact that I was dealing with severe anxiety and just didn't want to talk to anybody about it. Men and women go through this. My kids were leaving the house and I had to come to terms with it. And I didn't realize the impact it was having on me subconsciously. My limbs were getting numb. I was dealing with this severe anxiety and I was ashamed.
Mm,
And, you know, I am so thrilled. I was talked into a very dear friend, and I'll talk about anything. I'm so open about this, to go into therapy. And it was the most wonderful thing because you acquire tools. We all deal with anxiety. That's
yeah.
normal. It's how to deal when it transcends to a different level. And for me, that level was this numbness in my body. I thought I had some type of disease, and anxiety can do that to you. And
Mm.
Patrick, what it was that I had to come to terms with is my family unit is dead. And that sounds so horrible. But what that is I had to come to terms with the babies that I raised, the toddlers I chased after, the teenagers that I would stay up all night waiting for. That was dead. That was gone in my life. My kids are still there, but in a whole different capacity. And it took medication. I was on meds for a year and a half to deal with the severe anxiety, but it was the therapy that taught me the tools to deal with it. And then after a year and a half, I was able to slide off of that. So I sit here with you today and I say, you need help. I was ashamed. Do
Yeah.
not be ashamed. Get the help where you need it.
Yeah. You know what's funny? So we're empty nesters too. We got 3 kids, and my daughter is the baby. She's 22, and I'm sitting here. I'm gonna tell you this story. She's gonna kill me. I'm gonna tell it anyway. So I'm researching you, right? And I'm writing down these questions, right? And I write them on a sheet of paper because I'm old school. I write them on a sheet of paper, and then I transcribe them to my phone so I can send them. And I'm transcribing these questions, and my wife, she's in there cooking, right? And she's gonna kill me. I was like, "Oh, how do you feel having your babies out of the house?" Right? These are the questions I'm asking. And my wife, her name is Heather. She was like, "I hate it." I was like, and I'm and I'm writing, right? I'm like, "No, she can't be talking to me." And then I was like, "How did you find yourself after the babies?" Right? I haven't yet. I'm like, I'm like, I'm not talking to you. Like I'm literally transcribing the questions, and she was answering the questions that that I'm getting ready to ask you. And I realized that what you talked about and what I researched happening in my own home. Like it's not talked about a lot because you look forward to seeing your kids grow, but I think it's not talked about enough on how it affects us as parents, especially especially us that's not, we wanted the kids to leave, but do you really want them to leave? Kind of deal. So I had to tell that story because when I it was so crazy. What do you think was the hardest part about seeing your kids go? Like you raised them and you want them to be successful and you want them to be adults, but then you don't. Like, what was the hardest part about that for you?
Wow, you hit the nail right on the head there. And I mean, with your wife and everything, sure, that's what you experience. And maybe we don't talk about it. And there are times we just need to. What was that experience? Yeah, it was the same thing. Oh, it's so wonderful. I did my job. You know, you're out of here, you're leaving. But a part of you as a mom and a dad is now gone forever. They're there. They'll be back in your lives in a whole different capacity. Your daughter's still home. My kids have left.
Oh no, she's not home. She left.
Okay, she left. And you know, and you want them to live your lives just like it was our desire to get out of the house, live our lives. That's the best gift you could give your children. But at the same time, we as women and men, parents, we need to come to terms with it. And it delves in different ways for everybody. And I was fortunate in that my writing saved me because I
Mm.
realized when I was creating my stories that my mind wasn't on Mary. It was on that. And what was happening? My limbs were fine. Everything was fine. So you had to learn how to deal with this. But how do you know? You know, things that can help you are hobbies. My hobby became a career, but how do you know what is something that can help you? You don't have to be an author. It could be anything that you
Yeah,
desire. And how do you know you have that passion? Because you can't wait to get up in the morning and get to it. It's
yeah,
something that's in your soul. It's such a part of you. And that's why I always say, never give up on yourself. They're gone. You want them to live your life. Now
yeah.
it's time for you to find some purpose in life. And I have wonderful backstories for you when you're ready for me, Patrick, about these titles of my.
Hang on. I want to get to that. That's actually not next, but I'm gonna ask you something else, and then we're gonna talk about these funny, quirky. This I want to get on it, but what I realized is that as a parent, and then they leave, you kind of have to find yourself because for years you have been taking them to basketball games, taking them to cheerleading, taking them to dances, and a lot of your life revolves around parenting. So a lot of the things that you do is because they did. You do the volunteering, you doing all of these things, and then when they leave, you kind of like, you know what? I don't have that part of me anymore. How do I fill this space? Who am I? Like I'm not going to watch Disney movies no more. I don't even like them. I went because they liked them, right? And I was the chaperone. Like I'm the parent. I don't have to go to any more basketball or volleyball games. So I don't have to do none of that. But then you look at it now, you have all this free time and you don't even know what you really like.
Yeah.
How? And this is the question before we get into your authors and your titles. Yeah. How did you find what you liked? How do you find that?
You see, for me, Patrick, these ideas of writing books were always put on the back burner. As you said, I got married. I was working. You raise your family. You're volunteering. You have no life. Their life is your life. So always in the back of my mind, I said, oh, I want to write a novel. And finally, when my first one left, that gave me a little bit of time to start doing something like that. And I had to prove that I could. And that's where I started. And at that point, it was a hobby. And when I say put more yay in your day, what I am saying is to never give up on yourself and find your purpose. What is your purpose? You know, it's something that gives you passion. It doesn't have to be writing. It could be volunteering, gardening, whatever, traveling. When you know you have that passion, it's part of your soul, you can't wait to get up in the morning and do it. It's not that it can become a career. That's not what I'm stating here. I'm saying to find your purpose again, because we had a purpose before we were married. We had a purpose before we had children. But then our purpose, as you said, Patrick, all the time, there's you, but where is the real you inside, right?
It is crazy. And people don't talk about that stuff because I think it's almost, I hate to say like taboo to talk about, oh, your kids are leaving and I don't know what I am and who I am. And it makes you seem like all you did was for your kids, right? And maybe that's good, maybe it's bad, but at the end of the day, you do the best you can and try to live the way you live. So here's my next one.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of your books. How many books do we have?
Right now we have 2 that are published, and one is coming out in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
And they all have quirky titles, and there's incredible backstories I'd love to share with your audience of how these titles come about.
So let's do it this way. Give me the titles, and then give me some of the backstories on the titles. Let's go to work. Let's see how this pans out.
My debut novel. Okay, and I would love to share with your audience. I'm an overnight success, a 10-year overnight success, Patrick. It was my goal to be traditionally published. Okay. So I was just dealing with rejection after rejection after rejection. At that 10-year mark, I signed my first contract with a small publishing house. And it was the 4th manuscript, my 4th novel that they accepted. Tigers love bubble baths and obsession perfume. Who knew? And it is a mystery romance intertwined with the supernatural or the spiritual. And that's what I signed the contract with the small publishing house. And it was these titles, I always start with a title, and they come about from an event in my life. So tigers really do love bubble baths and obsession perfume. And how I found this out is I visited a wildlife reserve in St. Augustine, Florida. And at the end of the tour, I come to this thin cage. There's a vat 15 feet wide, 5 feet high, overflowing with bubbles. Wildlife handler is standing on a ladder, also behind the thin cage, and there's a plank. And I'm thinking, okay, but let me just preface this. This wildlife reserve is a home for it's like an old folks' home for big cats, not little cats, lions, tigers, panthers, jaguars. They would come to this wildlife reserve, like let's say they finished up with the cable show. They didn't need them anymore. They were tossed aside from a movie or even owned by people. They would end up at this wildlife reserve. So I'm standing there waiting, and out walks this beautiful 600-pound Siberian tiger, walks across the plank, looks as though he's taken off a robe, and he slips into this vat of bubbles, sticks out his tongue, and the wildlife handler sprays the obsession perfume on his tongue. He laps it up like a cocktail. And Patrick, I stood there with my mouth open, and I went, that is the title of my next novel. Tigers love bubble baths and obsession perfume. Who knew? And what I did was it became a metaphor, because as these old cats are tossed aside like an old shoe, so is my protagonist, Angie. She's tossed aside like an old shoe after 25 years of marriage. So I had to fight for this title, because publishers always want to change the title. And they said, tell me that there's a tiger in a boat. I said, there absolutely is in my novel. And so that is how the title came about.
That is, I'm sitting here right now, I'm listening to this story. And I saw myself in the camera and my mouth was open. I'm like, this is, wait a minute, a tiger. Okay, I get it. And this next one, the girl in the Toile Toile.
Wallpaper.
Okay, give me that one.
And I guess this is always a running joke when I come on podcasts. They say, Mary, what is it? The girl in the toilet wallpaper? And if you can see behind me, you see the toile. And what toile is, it's been around for centuries. It's very much a part of our lives. We just don't know it as toile. And toile tells a story. It's in wall covering and fabrics. It's two very vibrant colors that come together on maybe a cream colored background or a vibrant background. And it tells a story. It's not a mural. A mural is one story, but a toile gives you many different scenes. And it could be with people, without people. It could be contemporary. It could take you into the past, but it tells a story. Now, I live in Florida now, but I used to live in Connecticut and in the Northeast. My home, you're in the Northeast, it's dark. I love toile so much. I couldn't even sell my home. I had so much of toile wallpaper throughout the house that people said, there's too much of this wallpaper. What is it? But I would walk by my toiles and I saw story. I saw love. I saw betrayal. I saw journey. I saw everything. So that became, now you would think at this point I was a published author. My books have all won awards, but the first book was best-selling. It won 8 awards. And I approached my publisher at the time, Patrick, and I said, I have a trilogy. And they said, well, thank you, but we don't do trilogies. So I was fortunate enough to find a new publishing house, a small publishing house beginning in Digner House, all women, and they were interested in the trilogy. So the first book of the trilogy is titled The Girl in the Toile Wallpaper. And the second book of the trilogy, The Star Writers Club, will be out in a couple of weeks. And I take a theme. Trilogies are different than like serial books. I take a theme from The Girl in the Toile Wallpaper. But one thing I did want to mention, just to go back briefly with the Tigers book, during COVID, Tiger King had become very popular. And either you love it or hate it. But at that point in time, so my Tigers book, people would look it up and everything. But at that point, people in the United States still were allowed to have tigers as pets. And activists went to work and they got Congress to basically pass the law that said nobody could own a tiger. And tigers they truly do love the bubble baths. They could sit in them all day. And the obsession perfume, it's so true. It's the pheromones in the perfume. It calms them down like a cocktail. And just such incredible creatures that people rallied for them, and they still do. So thank you.
But I I'm listening to you, and I'm looking at your facial expressions and your movements. You got a lot of spunk. I'm gonna use that
Thank
word.
you.
Where does this imagination come from? Like these titles, these aren't everyday titles, so they got to come from somewhere. How do you? Well, I know the tiger one. That's self-explanatory, whatnot. But how do you come up with this? How does your imagination work, man? Are you sitting in the room and just writing down these wild ideas and like, you know what? Oh, that's crazy. Let me do that. Like, how are you doing this, Mary?
I carry around this little book,
That is.
and any fascinating names that I hear. And because I am an introvert, most authors are. We're introverts. I could see you're an extrovert. I am not.
Oh.
I'm observing and I'm writing and I'm getting ideas. And these events in my life will give me a quirky title. But what I love, my genre is fantasy adventure, make
Mhm.
believe, because Patrick, real life is too real for me. So
Yeah,
these ideas come just like I love that fantasy part. And what I want to do is give the reader an escape from reality. Come follow me, read my books, and I'm going to take you on a journey. My books are fast reads. It's not that
yeah.
you have to sit there, and they're fast reads, but I love movies that are fantasies, and I love books that are fantasies. And I've gotten wonderful, The Girl in the Toile Wallpaper's won many awards, and it's been compared to Doctor Who and,
Mhm.
the Time books and everything. So
I like that.
it's fun. It's fun. And what I do is, like, as you said, how did the ideas come to me? I begin with the title. I have a general idea. Like I said, the title, like the tigers, they were tossed aside. It became a metaphor for my protagonist. And
Yeah.
then I have a general idea of an ending. I don't have that middle of the sandwich yet, but then I develop the characters and I become the characters. I don't walk around the house and act like the characters, but in my mind, because you have to have their motivation, what desires they have. Are they, characters are good and bad. So that's like the next part. And then for me, that is the most fun because what I find is I don't have an outline. These stories are like a blessing to me because they take me. I start writing, and what I was told is if you can see the story in your head as a movie, you can write it.
Yeah.
And past that's the secret to it, because if you see that story, you hear the dialogue, you can get it down. And if you write a sentence, that one sentence leads me to the next sentence, and before you know it, you have a paragraph. You do a couple of paragraphs, you have a page. And if you write one page a day, in a year you can have a book. So I'm not
Mm.
prolific as some of these authors are. They write 10 books a year. I write maybe one. I begin my second book in that year, and then the whole editing process takes a good year before the book is published, and that's the whole other world.
That's rough. I'm actually working on my first book. I have a book in publication now, and I'll tell you what, it's a lot between finding the company and writing and I have a regular job, so I still got bills to pay. And my kids, I'm like an ATM still to my kids, so I can't just quit working, right? So and I was like, man, this yeah. Yeah, you laugh, but I'm serious. I'm an ATM.
Oh, I agree with you completely. I have one married son. He's still on my phone plan. They're all still on that phone plan. I'm like, you married? He's like, maybe when I have a kid. Now the other one's getting married. They're like, well, that's not fair. The brother's still on it. I mean, it's crazy because it's so much cheaper for them to just stay on the plan.
I tell you what, I want to get to some more of the story, but you're 100% true. My kids, so I'm that parent. I'm going to admit this wholeheartedly. My kids don't have all of their bills. I still have some of my kids' bills. And are you truly an adult if your parents still pay for your car insurance? Mm, but we still do that for our kids, right? To alleviate some of the burden, because this has nothing to do with the book, but this is just parenting. We talked about this the other day. Life now is so much different than I'm 40. I'm 46. I'm 46, and my oldest is 26. So I go back a little bit, but the money that we were making growing up, it went further, and our kids, right? We want them to. I told my kids, go to college, get you a degree, learn something, and go out there and make something of yourself. And a lot of times, the education and the pay doesn't equal up to a good life. You know what I mean? And and when we were growing up, and I'm talking mid '80s, early '90s, you made $18, $19 an hour, man. You were doing good, right? But 2023, you making $18, $19 an hour. You might need a part-time job.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason why we keep our kids on our plan, so we can alleviate. No, true story. And I say we, I mean my wife, because I get rid of them, but she's like, no, you're not. So I just lose. But to alleviate some of that burden and to help them not live check to check is what we used to call it. And I was like, you know what? You can stay on there. I'm not hurting enough to where I got to kick you out. So I dig that. So I dig that. So here we go. We're going to have some real fun now, my kind of fun.
I'm ready.
At the end of every show, I play this game with all my guests. It's called Pick One. I'm going to give you options, but you can only choose one. So I'm not going to throw you under the bus. I'm not going to try to embarrass you. None of that. We're just going to have a good time. You ready?
I'm ready.
All of the books, present and future. You can only keep one. Which book are you going to keep?
Books that I wrote?
That you've written and have in the works, in the queue. You can only keep one book. Which one are you keeping?
The Girl in the Toile Wallpaper.
Here's the next one. Out of all the Toile, the newspaper articles and the wallpaper, all that stuff you got, your favorite Toile all time, like what do you have?
It's the colors, Patrick, that get me. So I love that bright blue, that indigo blue with the mixture of red. It's the color. If it could be any Toile, contemporary, but it's those colors, and that's what Toile is about, the artistic colors.
I give you the phrase, "This is my moment." What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
This is my moment. I want to thank God, praise Him, and thank for all the blessings that He has provided in my life. And I want to pay it forward. I
love that. Great answer. Great answer. Miss Mary, we are done.
Oh, that went by so fast.
I said, I knew, you know what's funny, right? When I was reading your questions and writing your questions, I was like, this is going to be fun. Don't leave. I'm finna close out the show, and I'll come right back to you, okay? Just hang on for me 1 second. Hey, guys, Miss Mary says something in her communication with me. Never give up on yourself. Find you something that you love to do and make it a passion. And that's it, man. Find yourself, find something that you love, and do it. And then at the end of the day, go get it!
Join the movement, we bringing people together, bringing positivity, making changes for the better. Cause it's all about growth, all about success. We wanna see you rise, wanna see you at your best. Ay.